Alright guys, welcome back to the next part of our lecture on the government's role in agribusiness. Today we're going to talk about food and farming. So farm and food policies are areas of public policy that concern how food is produced, processed, distributed, and purchased. They are designed to influence the operation of the food and agriculture system. This ensures a safe and adequate food supply for citizens. Government support can come in the form of subsidies, which are available to farmers who produce wheat, feed grains, cotton, milk, tobacco, soybean, sugar, rice, and countless other crops. It guarantees a price for the items produced, even if the companies using these crops are paying a lower price per pound. The USDA, U.S. Department of Agriculture, the largest portion of its budget is actually made up of food subsidies, not farm subsidies. And the largest of the subsidy programs are food stamps. Food subsidy programs were established out of the need to dispose of farm production believed to be a surplus under commodity price funding programs. It's also going to guarantee food safety. It guarantees a safe food supply for the American people for the 21st century, and it includes the Food Safety and Inspection Service. This is why it's the USDA who puts out the notifications of things like E. coli, other contaminants in the food. And also, they're the ones who will inspect your packing plants. The FSIS is going to improve public health and well-being by protecting citizens from foodborne illnesses and guaranteeing the nation's meat, poultry, and egg production are safe, wholesome, and properly packaged. The Farm Service Agency, FSA, is an agency within the USDA that is responsible for the implementation of farm conservation and regulation laws around the country. And it administers the following to both farmers and ranchers: farm commodities, crop insurance, credit, environmental conservation, and emergency assistance programs. It also has several programs like the following: the Farm Loan Program to establish, improve, expand, transition, and strengthen a farm or ranch. Disaster assistance to support, which provides support for natural disaster losses due to drought, flood, fire, freeze, tornadoes, pest infestations, and other disasters. It has things like price support, which is supporting loan making, loan servicing, and loan program provision compliances. So it's going to help with lending money to farmers and ranchers. And conservation programs like the drinking water program, programs that reduce soil erosion, programs that are going to help wildlife habitat preservation, preservation of forests and wetlands, and aiding farmers with natural resources. As we're beginning to tell you, the USDA and the FSA do more than just what you might guess from their name. Among the other things it does is it compounds the daily market prices, so we know the daily market rates at premium and at discount scales, so we can price things appropriately. It actually also handles commodity procurement and offers the public to purchase commodities and other related goods. The Farm Bill implements policies approved by Congress every 5 years. It's in your 15s and your 5s and your 0s. It was a big source of contention this past summer about what they were going to put in the 2020 Farm Bill. It is the primary agricultural and food policy tool of the federal government. It helps to ensure that farmers and ranchers have the tools they need to harvest a plentiful and affordable food and fiber supply. Some of the major farm bills include the Food and Agricultural Act of 1965, the Ag Act of 1970, the Food and Agriculture Act of 1977, the Agricultural Food Act of 1981, Food, Agriculture, Conservation, and Trade Act of 1990, Farm Security and Rural Investment Act of 2002. The Food and Agricultural Act of 1965 presented the first multi-year farm bill, and it provided 4-year commodity programs for wheat, feed grains, and upland cotton. It extended voluntary acreage controls to wheat and cotton. The Ag Act of 1970 gave farmers more freedom by allowing voluntary land set-asides. It did limit payments on a single crop to $55,000 per farmer annually. The Food and Ag Act of 1977 raised price and income supports, established farmer-owned reserve for grains, set up two-tiered pricing program for peanuts. A poundage quota was set. Growers could produce in excess of quota, but they would only receive price support for the quota amount. The government would help you up to a point. Anything you produced over that, you were on your own. You weren't going to get anything from the government for that. You had to sell it strictly on your own. The Ag and Food Act of 1981 set target prices for the 4-year length of the bill. It lowered dairy supports. It eliminated rice allotments and marketing quotas. And it continued and modified commodity programs in effect since the 1930s. The Food Security Act of 1985. It provided more government support to farmers, it allowed lower commodity price and income supports, and it established a dairy herd buyout program. The Food, Agricultural, Conservation, and Trade Act of 1990 moved agriculture further into a market-oriented direction, froze target prices, allowed more planting flexibility, established rural development administration within the USDA, which promoted small rural communities, and extended and modified the food stamp and other domestic nutrition programs. The Freedom to Farm Act in 1996 reduced federal payments to farmers after a 7-year period, and it allowed farmers to produce any crop in any amount. The Farm Security and Rural Investment Act of 2002, it increased funding toward agricultural subsidies, and each year in return for production controls, having intense effects on the production of grain, oilseed, and upland cotton. It capped payments to individual farmers, and it helped fund new conservation programs. And the last one we're going to talk about today is the Food, Conservation, and Energy Act of 2008. It increased food stamp benefits for poor families, increased support for locally grown foods and farmers markets, and included research into pests, diseases, and other agricultural problems. All right, make sure you completed your notes, make sure you were meticulous and did not have stupid misspellings. If you've got any questions, feel free to comment, email me, or reach me in any way. Remember, everything is due by 4 o'clock on Friday.